Okay, so here's my Microsoft Project 10 tips. So tip one down the bottom there, all tasks and summary bars for each phase are to be linked. So if you look into the project, you'll see that the summary bars are these ones here. I'll show you in a second how to create those. And then the individual tasks are below them, and they're all linked. These little arrows that are coming out there, the links. At the moment, it's set up in view to view the entire project on one screen, which makes it very, very small. But that's just the way that I wanted to present it now. But when I'm actually putting in the information, I would just leave the default screen. So to look at some of those tasks that are right down the very bottom, I just copied and pasted these in, and I'm going to demonstrate now how I would link them. So the first thing that you need to do, you'll be starting off in this task page here. You'll have written in all your individual tasks and put durations against them. And you'll notice over here the default setting for these is the little green pin, sort of pin schedule image, and that is manually scheduled. The default setting is manually scheduled. You can change that in each one to auto schedule, and that just allows them to automatically schedule the tasks in terms of time. Manual will stick to the dates that you enter, whereas auto schedule will automatically move them forward or back depending on the previous tasks and the later tasks. Second thing, second way of changing that is just to highlight them all. Just manually clicking each one here, and then I hit auto schedule up here. You can also change on your settings so that they automatically auto schedule. So once you have all of the tasks auto scheduled, you'll see that they all start at the same day. If I click into any of these, they have the predecessors, and the predecessors are, in this case, finish to start, and I put in a 3-day lag on that. That's the previous one that I had put in. But let's say if I click into this item here, where it's just there's no predecessors, there's no link, and there's no lag. Okay, so to link them, I need to highlight them. So again, I'm just highlighting these, control, and I'm clicking, 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 clicky click, and then I press this little link the selected tasks button. So it's up there in the task bar, and there's an image of a chain link. Okay, and it says link the selected tasks. I'm just going to click that. Now they've all linked together, and if I click in on any of the, I can actually visually see them over here. I can visually see the links, those little arrows. But if I click into any of them, I'll also be able to see that they automatically create what's known as a finish to start link. Okay, so they're already linked there. To create this, I have this set up in here as that's an external work. So if I want to create a new heading in there, say I want to have a summary, I just insert a new task and I create that as, say, external works, for example. Type that task in. And all of these items below are reference to that. And then I can simply highlight these items and use the indent function to create a summary. Indent is this little arrow here. So now I've created a summary and I've linked all the tasks. That's the first section. So step 2 then, at least 2 start to start and finish to finish types on the dependencies must be shown, as well as the standard finish to start. So when I clicked into these items here, roads, paths, pavings, let's say, for example, my site services. If I click in here into site services, I have a number of predetermined outcomes here. One of them is building permanently weather tight. So the reason why I have that is, let's say I have scaffolding up around the building, or let's say I have teleporters up around, working outside the building in order to fit the windows or to assist with the roof. I don't want to be digging up trenches and putting in pipes the same time that I'm trying to assist guys working on the building. So I'll prioritize the work on the building to get the building weather tight. Once the scaffolding is down and once the work is completed, I can then proceed to do my services. So that's why I've created those particular links. Now these are all finish to start links apart from this one here, which is a start to start link. So I'll demonstrate one of the other links how I would create those. So take, for example, here, roads, paths, pavings. Click into that one. You can see the predecessors. And that has a predecessor of a finish to start of the site services. In other words, I'm not going to start to lay my roads until all of my ducting is complete because I'm assuming that I'm going to have one crew here. But supposing I said, well, I want to try and speed things up. How am I going to do that? I could actually put a second crew on and I could have them start maybe a couple of days afterwards. So I could change that relationship for a finish to start to a start to start. So they start at the same time, but I could allow maybe 3 days. So I let the guys get maybe 3 days ahead, and then I'll have a second crew come in. So as the first crew are finishing laying their pipes, the second crew are coming in, and they're going to create the roads. And that changes the links. It changes the whole look and feel of this. Okay, pause there. Another link that I could look at is the finish to finish type. So take, for example, my landscaping and my snagging externally. Let's say my snagging externally, I want that to finish on the same day as my landscaping because the following task will be handover. So I want my snaggers to be around so that they're able to continue to work right the way up to the last day when the landscaping is complete. So I'll go into landscaping and snagging externally, and I'll create links between those. So there's no predecessor link on that. So the first thing I need to do is create a link, and you'll see there the date is the 28th of February, whereas this one is the 3rd of November. So that one was missed when I created the link earlier. So I'll link those two together, and the automatic I'll make sure that the link is working there. For some reason that link isn't working. All right, there's another link. Need to go into the predecessor. It's linked to another link there. Sometimes that happens. You just need to break the link. So what I'll do is I'll break that link by hitting this unlink tasks. That's after breaking that link, and now I'll be able to fix that. That's a useful little tool. If you ever get stuck there in something, there you go, and then she appears at the end. So I've just broken that link and then I've linked them together. But instead of the default setting, which as you can demonstrate, if I zoom in there, you'll see this in better visual. You can see the default setting is for landscaping to be done. See just there. The landscaping it takes 5 days and it finishes on the 8th of November. And then on the Wednesday, the 9th, we commence our snagging externally, and that's a finish to start. I'm going to change that now to a finish to finish. So I'm just going to change that relationship. I'm going to go in there and click on that and go finish to finish. And that will keep the same duration, but it means that now I need to bring in my snaggers a day earlier. So my landscapers are starting on the 3rd. I'm going to bring in my snaggers on the 2nd. So that's useful information to be able to tell there. Okay, so the schedule should include at least 3 lag times and notes to outline the rationale behind the lag times. So the lag times is the difference between a task starting, if it's a finish start, the difference between when that finish date on the original task happens and when the start date of the next one. So an obvious one there would be something that has a long lead in. So take, for example, the most common one would be windows. In this case, I've got windows and doors, and I also have timber frame kits. So over here in my information section, you can see that little yellow post-it, and that tells me that there's a note in there. So order timber frame and lead-in time for timber frame. I've got 42 days as my duration. So I allow in my lag then a 42-day lag. So if I go into my project information, I can see here there's a order timber frame is the finish to start on that item. And then if I go into the erection of my timber frame, I should also see a note in there for erection. Where is she? Timber frame delivery and timber frame kit erection. So if I click in here and I can see my predecessors, it's not actually set up as a lag. It's set up that the lead-in is actually set up directly. Pause there. Okay, so in retrospective, I just realized there's two ways of setting up a lag or a buffer, if you like. One is to show the lead-in time on your program. So in the instance that I selected there, I actually showed it as a separate task. The lead-in time was a separate task, so that you can see there's 27. Item number 27 is the predecessor for that, and there's 42 days for the lead-in time on the timber frame. That was one particular item. There's 84 days on the lead-in time for the new windows and doors to the extension. Another way of showing a lead-in time or a lag is to just demonstrate it within the task itself. So here in Fit Refurbished Windows, if you look at predecessors there, it says 61 FS plus 42 days. So that's 72. So task 61, the reference there to predecessor 61, finish start, that's order refurbishment of Windows, plus 42 days. So the refurbishment of Windows is set up as a milestone at the start of the project, and it's allowing 42 days. There's a little note over there. If I click into the item, I should see the note, and it says there, note, it's in the notes section, received 3 quotations for Windows. Worst case scenario for timeline was 6 weeks. I've allowed an extra week buffer, i.e. 7 weeks by 6 days per week equals 42 days. So if you wanted to, you could update that note, update lead-in time quoted by McNally, Joinery, December 12th, email. Just gives you a note, or anybody else reading it, a note as to where you can find that information. Okay. Okay, so that was the lag time. I got ahead of myself there by showing you the lead-in time. So the lag time is in the task description itself. When you click in predecessor and you make an adjustment there, the lead time is a separate task. So in this case, the lead time and the notes to outline it that I've selected is for my timber frame and my windows. So you can see there, new extension, order timber frame, and I've got the lead-in time after that, and the duration of the lead-in time is 42 days. And if I was to click into that, I might see my notes there, and I have the notes to justify it. In the notes section, lead-in times quoted by email, KTF 50 days, email December 12th, Kingspan Century Home 40 days, Kelly Timberframe, average 40 days, plus 2 days buffer is 42 days, which is essentially in a 6-day week, that is 7 weeks. Just be careful about the setup there from a 5-day to a 6-day when you're calculating your week durations. We'll look at that in a few days' time, a few moments' time. Okay, so items 5 and 6 there are just information. All phases should have a summary bar and milestones included. So I showed you how to create a summary bar simply by highlighting the tasks and using the indent function. That's what created the summary bar. And then in terms of milestones, if you look at this item there, for example, BCMS and safety file handover, once you create a duration of 0, it automatically schedules that as a milestone. So the milestone is that little diamond and it publishes the date on it. So you do that just by hitting 0 as a duration and it'll create them as a milestone. You can also just add milestone on the taskbar there. And a milestone is just a key date. It's something that you would highlight to everybody working on the project. This is a very important date. So handovers are typically milestones. Buildings being weather tight are milestones. Snagging is a milestone. Commencing is a milestone, etc., etc. Okay, change calendar from standard to working Saturdays with Sundays as a non-working time and make one exception day as a holiday. So again, your default setting is probably to be in the taskbar up here. So to find the days and the working days, etc., we go up into project, click into project, and then we go across to change working time. We click in there, and there are a series of calendars. So when you start, is usually only the default calendar. I've already set up my calendar here with a series of annual holidays and public holidays. I got these by Googling the CIF, the Construction Industry Federation holidays, and entering that information. But we'd say if I showed you what it would look like at a standard, it would create a new base calendar. This is what a standard calendar would look like. You see how Monday to Friday is white and Saturday and Sunday is grey. And you can also see the working times are 8 to 12 and 1 to 5. So that's suggesting that there's a 1 hour lunch break and it's based on a default work week on calendar, i.e. calendar 2. And over here you can see all the legends. So the white describes the working, grey non-working, and then there's exception days, these green exception days. So we can put in the first thing that we would do is we would change the Saturdays, the day of the week. We would change those to be working days. Okay, so to change the working hours, we're in project, change working time, go into calendar, and I click on a date. So I click on, say, the 8th, for example. I click on details. So in order to do, as I'm just moving through these different tasks here, in order to create a task. Yeah, I just want to delete that. See, yeah. So this is the way it should be. This is the way it's going to look like for you. So I click on that particular date. I have to start, I have to click into the little arrow. It's an exception date, and I click in here to details. And that allows me to change from non-working to working times. And I can choose the highlighted ones there, 8 to 12. And then recurrence pattern, I'm going to select that weekly. So every week on a Saturday, uh, these hours will apply. No. Okay, apologies, I was on the wrong track there. So just in the that was exceptions that I was looking at. I created an exceptional day. What we need to do is adjust the work week apologies. So just click into Workweek tab, highlight the default tab, look at the details there, and the details are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you can see the Saturday, and we're going to set, these are all set as 8 to 12, 8 to 12, right the way through. Saturday, we're going to set these days to specific times, and we're going to use 8, same times there. Click into there, 08, 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Okay, and you'll see it changes there from the grayed out non-working to the white working. Okay, you'll also see that it makes a change straight away visually. You can see that change in your schedule. So next item there, make duration times in days. That was something that we did at the very start, and that was actually a default setting anyway, so I don't really need to do anything else there. Change the start date to a date in the future. So I suppose when you start, you're auto scheduling the project to start as soon as possible. That's always the start. But what you can do is, instead of auto scheduling one of the dates, you can create a manual scheduling. So if I even just scroll up here, I should see that there's somewhere along the lines, there's a little green highlight there. That's my enabling works manual schedule. I've manually scheduled that to be the 4th of April, but also in here, issue architectural drawings, 28th of February. So that was the start date that I have in there, which is a auto schedule date. That was an auto schedule date. So like I say, there are two ways to start the project in the future. One is to have a manual schedule, such as the hoarding. That's been manually scheduled to start on the 4th of April. And another way would be to have the auto schedule. So the auto schedule is set up there. At the beginning, we created auto schedule, and now we just need to go into project information and change the start date. So I have it at the 28th of February. If I was to change that, for example, to the 28th of March, click OK, we can see how everything changes out. Now, the problem with that, changing that, is that my hoarding date is still fixed to the 4th of April. So what I might do is I might change that hoarding to auto schedule. It will try and bring that back. If I change that, manually scheduled task, change that to auto scheduled. It will try and bring that back to the very first day of the project, the 28th of March. So instead, I might link that to all of my design team approvals and so on. I'd link that there. So I have, for example, the 28th of March. I'm going to put, say, 2 weeks from when my design team approvals have commenced to when I'm actually starting on site. So I'll just create a link there to do that. And I'll create a little lag in there. Say 12 days. And that pushes everything out. Perfect. So the last step then, step 10, is highlight the critical path on the Gantt chart. So the critical path is usually indicated by a red line that runs through all of the tasks visually. And essentially that means that if there are any durations on those red tasks that are lengthened or shortened, they will have an impact on the program. So if you want to, what a lot of clients will do is they'll just look at the start date and the end date, and they might say, what can I do to bring that end date forward? And in that instance, you're looking at the critical path and you're saying, right, if I can shorten these durations by maybe increasing the gang size, increasing the number of people working on the job, on only on the critical path items, that will save time. It'll probably cost extra money. Another thing that the client, we spoke before about the triple constraints model where you have time, cost, and quality, and how an impact on time will have an impact on cost, etc. Another thing a client might do is they might look at the scheduling of their finances, and they might say, well, I don't have the cash flow to facilitate this accelerated program that you've developed. You've produced a fantastic program here, but my cash flow is indicating that I'm going to have to come up with too much money. Is there any way of spreading this out? Maybe I've got some passive income and I want to actually spread out the project. And again, you'd be looking at the critical path items and looking to lengthen those critical path items. So it changes the length of time by reducing, if it's an effort-driven task, it reduces the number of resources, essentially. Something is going to take the same amount of time uh, in resource hours for the task, but it might take a greater amount of time because you just have less resources, if that makes sense. So a block layer might build uh, 500 blocks in a day. So therefore, two block layers can build 1,000 blocks. So therefore, if you have 10,000 blocks, it will take two block layers 10 days. One block layer will do it in 20 days. Four block layers will do it in 5 days. Same idea. So we have to highlight the critical path on the Gantt chart now, and that should be highlighted in red. A good opportunity now at this stage is maybe to save the program, and I would usually save a copy before I highlight it, because then I can work around with the other previously saved document if I need to make changes. So I'll typically save it now and save a copy of it. So to show the critical path, I go up into task view. The default there is Gantt chart. I'll click in, there's a little drop down menu there, so I'll click on that. See my little Gantt drop down menu. It says there built-in Gantt chart, and I can click down here until I see tracking Gantt. And I click onto that, and that should show my critical path. And you can see there all of the items in red, all of these red task bars, those items are on the critical path in this instance. So that big long one there, for example, is the lead-in time on the timber frame kit. You can see how that's a very critical item. If that item was reduced from 42 days down to, say, 22 days, that would have a big impact on the overall schedule. So how I know that, if I was to scroll across here and scroll up and look, the overall project starts on the 28th of March and it finishes on the 8th of November. If I simply chose that one task there, I want to reduce it back from the 8th of November, and I'll choose that task, timber frame lead-in time. Instead of 42 days, if I bring that down to, say, 20, see what happens. It changes everything, and now I'm finishing on the 31st of October. So the reduction in the overall program time isn't necessarily the same as the reduction in that particular task, but it does have a net reduction. Okay, so that's the 10 items. If you have any queries, please send me an email. Thanks.